Good afternoon and welcome to Personal Finances for Young Professionals, a Future Alumni Week event. My name is Kate and I serve as the Vice President of Traditions for the Student Alumni Association's Garnet Circle. Garnet Circle works to foster relationships between students and alumni to prepare students for life after graduation. Future Alumni Week serves its purpose by providing May graduates with all the tools for success for a full week of events. Today, we're focusing on life skills, and we'll also cover professional development on Thursday and engagement with the University of South Carolina as an alumna on Friday. You can check out those events and register to reserve your spot at ufscalumni.org/events. We'll be awarding prizes to those who attend the most events at the end of the week. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Rachel Sinoway, Coordinator of Financial Literacy with the Student Success Center, to begin our session.
Thanks so much, Catherine, for your introduction. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Rachel. I'm the coordinator for financial literacy. So I work over in the Student Success Center on the mezzanine part of the time in the library. But I also work part of the time in our money management lab, which is over in Columbia Hall, in the residence hall on the first floor. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen now, and then we will jump into the presentation. Really excited to be talking to y'all today, especially as you're getting so close to graduation. It's always a good time to talk about money management, but I think it's especially important as you're getting closer to graduation. If you're thinking about jobs, where you might live next, are you going to stay in Columbia? Kind of what does that whole process look like as you're getting close to graduation and in another life transition after you graduate too. So super excited to be having this conversation with y'all today. And I think it's going to be a fun one too, hopefully. So trying to see if it'll be easier if I have that. No, I can't, then I can't see the chat. So I am going to just leave it like this, and I'll kind of walk through each slide with y'all here. But today we're talking about personal finances. So this is going to talk mostly about budgeting, but I'm going to leave time for questions at the end. Any questions you might have about, again, kind of transitioning, questions about if you're applying to jobs, cost of living, how to have that conversation, what does that look like? I have some really good websites and resources that we'll talk about too at the end that I think will be really helpful with your transition as well. So I'll definitely leave time for that at the end, and I can also share my email and information if y'all have more questions after this too. So the first thing I wanted to have y'all do is just take a second, and I can put this in the chat too, but if y'all could take a second and just fill out our attendance for our office, that would be super helpful. So let me just drop that in there. So if you could just take a second to fill that out. And again, the name of the presentation is Personal Finances 101. I'm gonna skip the pre-workshop survey here. We're just gonna wait a minute just for y'all to fill out that attendance. Okay, so as you're filling that out, I'm gonna start chatting about money management program and how y'all can take advantage of that before you graduate, and also as a grad student too, if you end up coming here as a grad student. But so our program, again, I said we're based out of Columbia Hall in the money management lab. We do one-on-one consultations with students talking about budgeting, credit cards, student loans, and how that transition can be after you graduate when you're starting to pay those loans back. We also talk to students about moving off campus as well. And I supervise peer financial consultants, so you can meet with me or you can meet with students that are trained to have these conversations as well. So that's just a little bit about our program and where we're housed. It's free. It's not going to cost you anything to come talk to us. We also do workshops like this as well for students. So a lot of different things. So I just wanted to preface this by saying too, some of this is going to be me chatting and explaining different terms. but I also want to make sure that I'm leaving time for y'all to ask questions, and I'm going to have some questions for you, so you'll be able to interact in the chat as well. I also like to preface and say, I know I speak fast. I'm from New Jersey, so I think we all do on some level there. But yeah, if you need anything repeated, if I'm not speaking clearly enough, just please drop it in the chat, and I or one of the moderators will make sure that you get your questions answered as well. Yeah, so the first thing I want to ask, and I can drop this question in the chat too, so you can kind of think on it for a minute. So before I move to the next slide, I want to know, what do you spend money on? And I like to leave it general, so you can say, you can share what you feel like you spend the most money on. But let's think back maybe the past couple weeks. So I know a bunch of you had spring break a couple weeks ago, so let's think back for the month of March. What are some things that we've spent money on? That's where I want to kind of start the conversation. So drop your answer in the chat. Okay, great. We've already gotten some answers. Keep sharing. I'm going to go through the ones that we have though. This is great. Good answers, guys. Okay, so the first one I got was from Cameron, who said, I probably spend the most money on takeout food. Cameron, you are not alone. I've been working at the university for 4 years, and the number one thing I hear from students is they feel like they spend a lot of money on takeout and food. So definitely not alone on that one. And we live in a city, right? So there's plenty of easy fast food, plenty of options, especially if living in some of the student housing, there's lots of stuff nearby and easy to do those things. Cassidy said food, gas, money towards sports, yeah, figure skating, running, healthcare appointments, yeah, medical is a big one. That was a good one to share. Food, transportation, travel, food, concert, and gas, food and gas. I'm seeing food and gas seem to be a big theme here. Yeah, food, going out, and gas, yeah. Oh, toiletries and house essentials, yeah, that's a big one. Especially not being in a dorm anymore and moving out on your own. Food, okay, good. So these are all great answers to share. And I think this is a good basis to start from. So before I get into what budgeting is, before we really get into the nitty gritty, I like to kind of think about where we're all coming from, right? So what do y'all specifically spend money on? What are we thinking about when we think about spending money? So some good answers, definitely saw some themes there, and we'll kind of stick with those a little bit for the rest of the presentation. So these are just some other categories, and y'all highlighted on most of them. So cars, we said gas, shopping, books, so we think about textbooks maybe, but transitioning that now, maybe less as getting closer to graduation. Electronics, going out with friends, dining out, dating, maybe not traveling so much, except maybe for spring break, and stuff is opening back up now, so maybe we're traveling a little bit more. But these are the big ones, I think, and y'all highlighted on most of them. So it's really important to know what we're spending money on. One, to know what do we need to track when we're talking about budgeting in the future? What do we want to work on? And maybe some of these are going to fit with the goals that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So we're going to set some financial goals and just think about, okay, for my future, as I'm getting close to graduation, what are some things that I want to work on with money? Do I want to spend less money in a certain area? Do I want to save money to travel? Do I want to save money to move? Maybe you want to go backpack in Europe or something and you want to save for that. So maybe that's one of your goals. So we're going to kind of talk about that. And one of the reasons why I think it's so important to talk about financial goals is because that's going to be your motivator, because we're going to talk about a lot about personal finances today, but I'm going to talk a little bit more in general terms. So I want to make sure that it's also getting talked about in a way where it's personal for y'all. And so that's why I think it's so important to talk about financial goals, because your financial goals are going to be different from your best friend, from your roommate, from your neighbors. Maybe you share some in common with your partner or fiance or significant other, with your family, but on some level, you're going to have some different things that's going to motivate you and some different things that you want to work on. And so my hope is that piece, that motivation is going to help y'all to do well with your money and to do well with money management. I know it can be dull sometimes to talk about it and have those conversations, or maybe even listen to me talk about it. But I think having that motivation piece, I've seen students tend to stick with money management and do better with it when it means something personal to them and when they're thinking about it in a way that makes sense for them. And so hopefully that's what part of the conversation is going to be today, is what does it mean to you? And so we've already kind of started just by thinking about, okay, what do we spend money on? But now I want to talk a little bit about what a budget is. I feel like sometimes budget can be a scary word. So I just kind of forget that word after a bit, after I explain what it is. And I think about it, it's just a tool or a plan. It's really a plan for your money. So it's really to help you balance your income and your expenses. So what we're thinking about with this is, okay, I want to try to hopefully have at least as much income as expenses, so I'm not going into debt, or maybe more income than expenses, so I can save some of that money. So it's really just a plan. It doesn't have to be a big scary word. How are we planning the money that we're taking in from paychecks, or it's tax season, right? So maybe we're getting a refund. What are we doing with that tax refund? How are we budgeting that and making that work for us in the best way? And so budgeting really is the basis for personal finance. So if you can do well with budgeting, if you can have a plan for your money, you can do well with investing, saving, with a credit card, with potentially buying a house in the future, or moving to a different city and thinking about what that might look like too, as you're getting closer to graduation, as well. Or maybe you're staying in Columbia and you're staying connected with the university, which is great too, but moving out of student housing, what does that look like as well? So there's a lot of different factors, and we're definitely going to highlight on a lot of those today. But any questions, anything that comes up for you as I'm moving through each slide, feel free and just drop a message in the chat and say, hey, Rachel, I have a question about this, or can you clarify? And again, always happy to have that conversation with y'all and answer that. Yeah, and so going back to this slide here, once your budget's carefully balanced, that's when you can start thinking about other topics too. So I know budgeting can seem a little boring, again, or a little bit dull, but it's really, that's how we're going to build. That's how we're going to start talking about other topics. So you want to make sure we have that kind of on lock, and then we can move on with other things too. So, this looks a little weird right now. I think it's because I'm not in presentation mode, but that's okay. So we see on one side we have income and we have expenses. So income is money coming in, right? So that's a positive amount. And then expenses is money leaving our account. So I might just go into presentation mode just for this slide, even if I can't really see the chat right now, but just to show what types of expenses and income is on here. I like to break my expenses down a little bit into 4 different categories here. So we have monthly fixed, which is really where a lot of your bills come in. So if I'm paying rent on the first of the month, great, that's a monthly fixed thing. So it's things that happen every month that you need to pay for. Monthly variable, still monthly, not going to be at the same time every month, potentially. Still important. And then we have periodic expenses as well. So someone mentioned medical. So that would be a good periodic one that you would want to budget for. So if you know that you have to go to the doctor, maybe thinking about, okay, well, I know that my insurance isn't going to pay for all of that. So maybe I need to save money for a copay. So a couple years ago, back when I was on my parents' insurance, I knew that my copay for my regular doctor was $50. So I wanted to make sure that I had that money saved when I was in college. So when I went to the doctor, I was able to pay for that. So planning ahead, if you are able to do that possibly for medical expenses, that's really helpful too. or asking about how much things cost. Like if you're getting tests done, there's actually recently a law passed about this, that insurance companies and doctors' offices have to be more transparent about how much things are costing. So they're actually required to tell you how much things cost beforehand, which is nice. So if it's a test maybe that you don't need done as often, like I know for me, like when I get my x-rays done at the dentist, I think they can go longer without having them done, and it's not really detrimental to your health. So I always say, hey, I don't need x-rays as often because I don't want to pay for it, and I shouldn't have to either. So asking questions, getting more involved with your health and medical expenses can be helpful. I know when I was in college, my parents helped me to pay for a lot of that stuff, but then as I graduated and I moved on, I was paying for most of it myself. So getting more involved, if there's things that you aren't paying for right now, asking questions and seeing how much things cost is going to be helpful for you. So you're not maybe so blindsided in the future if that's something you haven't paid for before. I didn't know how expensive it is to go to the dentist because my parents used to pay for it, and then I started paying for it myself. And so now that I'm more involved, I'm like, okay, well, how much does this cost if I need an x-ray, or if I need to get a cavity filled, how much are you charging me? So it's just good to know how much things cost. And I think about it as being your own advocate too. And that's really important to do those things. So again, that's a periodic expense. And then discretionary was a lot of the other stuff we talked about. So we talked about going out with friends, food, travel, any of your fun stuff is going to be under discretionary. So in terms of importance, I know it's on the bottom here, but monthly, fixed, and variable and periodic are going to be your most important. And that's where you want to focus on budgeting first. So I want to make sure I can pay for rent. I want to make sure I can pay for my utilities and my car payment and those things before I set aside money, before I look at how much money I have to go out with my friends. And I think that's hard to have restraint like that. And it's something that you have to work on. Forming habits, I would, from what I've read, it takes up to 6 months to a year to make habits. So if you're trying to make good money management habits, it's something that you have to consistently think about and work on as well. And just to give some more examples too, I know I kind of rushed this a little bit and already talked to you about what a lot of these are, but these are some things that you would want to include, right? So we talked about rent being monthly fixed. Trying to think about some other ones on here. I think savings is an interesting one because I think you can prioritize its importance by how much money that you have, right? So we're thinking about it in terms of, okay, well, can I afford for it to be a monthly fixed thing where I'm saving the same amount every month for savings, or am I not making enough money right now to do that? Do I need to make it more periodic where I'm periodically putting money into savings? Car insurance, same thing. Are you paying for your car insurance right now? Maybe, I know for me, I didn't pay for my car insurance until I graduated college, and then I started paying for it on my own. So this may be a transition period where you're going to start paying for more things as you have a steady paycheck, as you have a full-time job, as you're potentially moving out on your own, right, from your parents. So just, again, some things to think about, and knowing how much things cost and being your own advocate, I think, is really important here as well. And also, I think budgeting in college looks very different from budgeting after college. So some stuff here you won't have anymore. You won't be paying for textbooks unless maybe you're going to grad school, and then you might be, but thinking about it that way too, right? So moving out of student housing, maybe you're moving to a new city and things are going to cost different amounts. My dad used to change my oil for me, so I had no idea how much an oil change was until I went to the dealership, and they're like, oh, that'll be $100 or $50 depending on where you go. So just things to think about. There might be some expenses that are new for you and maybe coming up, and you may need to think about how to include that in your budget too. Gas. So commuting to school, commuting on campus versus maybe you're commuting to a job, or not. If you're working remotely, I know working remotely has become a big thing with the pandemic. So maybe gas is in your budget now and you're taking it out, or you're kind of moving around what that looks like. I think especially with inflation too, we're seeing higher gas prices. We're seeing, although gas prices are starting to fall a little bit, which is nice. We're seeing grocery prices go up a lot. So you may see how much you're paying for groceries now, maybe more if you're living in a different state, but even so, just buying the same, even if you're buying the same things you're buying a few months ago, maybe the chicken's more expensive, or fruits and vegetables are more expensive, or things like that. So making sure that you're factoring that into your budget. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but I always think about budgeting as being flexible. So it's something that should change. Your rent may not change for a year, or certain things may be the same every month, but groceries is one of those things that may be periodic or a monthly variable. So that may change in amount. Gas is certainly changing. My budget for gas has gone up and down and up and down and up and down the past couple of years. I remember I've lived here for 4 years, so since 2018, and there was one time where gas was under $2, and I was so excited because I didn't use my entire gas budget that month. And now it's $3.70, right? So that's $1.70 more per gallon than it used to be. So I've had to make big adjustments, and I'm sure y'all have had to do the same thing as well. So again, keeping it as a flexible thing is super important. I also think, and this is what I see a lot of students get stuck in this trap, and adults too, as you're moving forward and graduating too, of comparing themselves to other people. But I think it's important to know that your budget's probably going to look different from your best friend, from your roommate. If there's someone that you share finances with, yes, you need to be on the same page with them and kind of work about how much you're paying or how much they're paying. You have a roommate, you talk about utilities or groceries or things like that. But really, if you think about someone you don't live with, your budget should look different from theirs, and that's okay. You may be prioritizing different things. I know someone mentioned, I think figure skating, right? Is that one of them on here? Figure skating and running, great. So Cassie, that's what you do. But maybe your best friend doesn't do that. So they don't have a budget line for figure skating and running in there. If you need to buy new running shoes, or a new outfit, or new equipment, or something like that. So your budgets will look different from everyone else, and that's okay. And I think it's important to kind of accept that and kind of think about that too. Speaking of budgeting in that aspect, you may be budgeting in a different way, or want to budget in a different way. Oops. Sorry, trying to get the transition here. Then your, again, friend, roommate, significant other as well. So there's paper versions. We have them in our office. And just to have like different line items. So I've had people that love to write it in a notebook about, okay, this is how much I spent here, or this is how much my rent is, and here's my budget and how all my bills fit into here. Excel is a great one. I'm going to show some examples after the presentation too, just so you can see what different ones look like. But if you go into Excel, and you go to new, they have templates. There's some great templates. There's ones for college students. There's ones for like after you graduate. I personally use an Excel template because I love it so much. Google Sheets also have some templates that are free. And what's nice is every month I just kind of keep the same spreadsheet, and I just kind of double it and add a new month on, and that's really easy for me to do. There's also some great apps out there as well. Mint is a good one. And I'll put these in the chat too, so I'm not just kind of speaking out into the void, and we can refer back later. Mint, Nerdwallet, thinking of some examples that students have told me. Clio is also a good one. Personal Capital I like too, so I'll put that in there. These are all budgeting apps. There's also some other good apps for investing, and for saving, like, and making savings goals that I can refer back to later too, and give you all some examples, but just wanted to share. There's also the envelope system, which actually has been gaining some popularity back with students I've seen. Basically, that's a cash system. You can do it in all cash, so like all your bills have different envelopes, but really the way that I've seen students adapt it, and the way that I really like to use it, is if you have what I would call like I don't even like to call it a problem area, but an area that you want to work on with your finances. So let's say you feel like you're eating out too much and you want to set a budget of $100 a week or $100 a month or something. You put $100 into this envelope that you have, you label it eating out. Or you can buy a set on Amazon. There's like really cheap ones for like $10 or on other websites too that will help, like are already labeled and kind of pretty colors and things like that. But basically, I want to work, let's say I want to work on eating out. So I put that in an envelope, $100. Once that $100 is gone, then I have no more money to eat out for the rest of the month. So it kind of keeps you in check too, because it's in cash. And you can see that money leave. I think the thing about using a debit card or a credit card is you're swiping, but you're not really seeing that money leave your account unless you're really tracking and checking it after every transaction and purchase, which I don't think anyone expects you to do. I think tracking is important, and we'll talk about that more in a few minutes, but actually in the next slide, but I think it's really good in terms of if you want to use cash, the envelope system can be a great way to get an area of your finances under control that you're trying to work on. So something cool there. But I feel like I've been talking a lot, so I want to go back to the chat for a minute, and I've managed to get it up here even with my full screen. So what I want to know from y'all is what budgeting methods that I just mentioned, what kind of jumps out to you? What's something that you might want to try after this presentation? Let me know from the ones that I just mentioned. Okay, great, got some answers here. Seeing a lot of Excel, which is great. Yeah, actually, I can, I'll show Excel for a second. We have a few minutes here. So let me get out of end the slideshow and my screen shall share it here. So I'm gonna open a new Excel and just show y'all how to get to the templates and kind of what that looks like. So if you go to new, all you have to do, they have suggested searches here. All you have to do is go over to budgets. They have a lot. They have ones for college. They have ones, everything on here, weddings, holidays, a bunch of different things. They have food ones on here too, which is great. So we know obviously groceries are more expensive than they used to be. So I think it can be a great thing to do to track your food budget as well. And also think about, there's so many grocery stores, especially because we live in a pretty urban area in terms of a city. Are you getting them at the best bang for your buck, right? So just trying to think about all the different grocery stores in Columbia. So Trader Joe's, I love Trader Joe's, so I always think about that one, but there's so many places to shop. So have you tried maybe some more of the budget places too? So Lidl, there's an Aldi near me. I've shopped at Walmart before. Walmart has pretty good groceries. I've had students tell me that Walmart's good too. Food Lion, I was gonna say Bilo, but Bilo doesn't exist anymore. I subscribe now to Publix. I didn't realize that Publix, you can subscribe to them, and I got like $2 off my groceries when I went the other day to pick up a couple things. So are there places where you can get like a frequent shopper card? Sometimes randomly Target has, I also live near Target. So sometimes Target has really good deals, like 25% off or 50% off of just like fresh produce or things like that. Or their Good and Gather line. Sometimes they have, again, 50% off, which is pretty good. So look for sales, see what's out there. Sometimes Lowe's, I can get really good sales on meat. I know Lowe's foods can be kind of expensive, but I found some really good stuff on sale. Publix also has a clearance section, and I've gotten stuff on sale there too. So just, you may have to dig a little bit more, but there's definitely places where you can get affordable food and maybe find some stuff that you may not have thought that you would find at a good price. So just be thinking about that. I'm trying to think of other supermarkets too. I said Publix. I think those are the main ones. Yeah. But yeah, just some thoughts here. Okay, so back to the college budget. There's, again, some more food budgets here. This is the one that I personally like though. It's called personal budget, and I'll show you why I like it. I like it a lot because it's one of the only ones that has an option for savings. So you can make it a savings habit and put it right into your account here, and have it right on here. And you can also edit this too. So let's say, I mean, right now we're not paying for student loan. I mean, maybe you are paying back your student loans, but there's no interest on student loans. So if I wanted to take that out, okay, great. I can add something else in. So someone said they do figure skating. So I won't have figure skating in my budget here. Great. Maybe it's $50 a month. Awesome. Let me do that. You see the summary, it can change. So let's say if I take this out. Here, right. Okay. The other reason why I really like this one too, personally, is because you can see what percentage you're at. So if I'm at 67%, okay, it's the 23rd of March and I'm towards the end of the month, doing great, doing well. If I'm at 67%, maybe I'm at more than that. Let's say I'm at, let's change. I'm at 78% and it's the first day of the month. Maybe I need to be thinking about how can I work through my budget and trying to save more money or spend less money. I would be a little bit more concerned if we're already at 80 or 90% and it's already it's only the first week of the month, because you want to make sure you have enough money for groceries or for things to last as you're doing this too. And I will say this also is based on a monthly budget. So this person has 2 paychecks though. So they have their first paycheck and their second paycheck. Budgeting, it's up to you how you want to do this. So I've seen students do it, or really anyone, adult students do this weekly, do it per paycheck, so bi-weekly or however often you get paid, or just do it monthly too. So see what works for you. I personally look at everything once a week, but I get paid every other week. So I'm really looking at it per paycheck of how much I'm using per paycheck for each thing. So how much per paycheck am I using for groceries, or how much per paycheck is going towards my rent, or looking at it that way too. So that's pretty important. So I just wanted to mention that. Yeah. Okay, cool. But that's a big one for Excel that I like. Again, easy to find. Go to the new tab and look through all of them. There's hundreds of them. They keep adding them too, because I check about like once a month and I'm constantly seeing new templates on there. So Excel does a really good job of adding that stuff on there too. All right, I'm going to go back to here, and I wanted to see what the other chats were that I didn't look at. Okay, some people said apps too. So Excel and apps seem to be the big ones. Cool. Anna, I actually put the apps in the chat. So if you scroll up, oh, it doesn't say I shared it to everyone. Sorry, it just said to the host and panelists. I apologize, my chat didn't send to everyone. So I will add those back in. So I said Mint, Nerdwallet, Clio, I spelled right, yeah. And then Personal Capital too. I apologize, my chat wasn't going out to everyone. So those are the few that I've used. We actually do another workshop in our office called What's Happening. So I've tested out a bunch of different apps, especially financial apps for students. And so I've had all these on my phone. The only thing I will say with apps that I wanted to mention, and I'm on the wrong slide here, sorry, is that a lot of them you do have to connect your bank account. So I think the biggest thing and the questions I get with that from students is about privacy. I feel like they do a good job. They always talk about the level of encryption that they have with it. I've never had issues or fraud or anything, or any of my information been taken, but you are taking a risk by sharing your bank account information. So I think with apps, that's just something to think about if you feel comfortable doing that. And so I like Excel partially because it's a little bit more private. I think apps are a little bit more innovative where it does stuff for you. Like Mint will text you if you go over your budget. So there are other interactive pieces that apps do that maybe Excel doesn't do. So I think that's something really to think about too, about like, how much work do you want to put in? I think it's a little bit more work to do Excel, but maybe it's more private. So that's a pro. And maybe a pro for apps is it's a little less work, but it's a little less private in that way. So just some things to think about there. But thanks everyone for participating so far and sharing. You participating makes it easier for me too. And really good thing. Okay. So these are budgeting steps. And again, this is flexible. So this is based on a 1 month estimated budget. And again, you can break that down into per paycheck, doing a budget that way. You can break it down to per week. I've seen people do daily if you want to get to do that. But I suggest setting a time for yourself. For me, Sundays are like my reset day. So I'm cleaning, like doing laundry, getting groceries. I also just added looking at my budget on Sundays. So I kind of set aside 5-10 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long time, but just kind of look at where you're at for the week or for the month or paycheck or however long you want to do it for. And I think thinking about it in a more positive way and not being like, oh, I have to sit down and look at my budget now. Like, okay, put it into your routine. Like if you run in the morning or you exercise for 30 minutes every day, like think about it like that. Like it's gonna, if you want to build it as a habit, put it into your routine as something that's non-negotiable for you to do. And I think that helps too. So tracking a month of actual income and expenses. So looking at that second thing here, it's really important to track to see where you're at. So, okay, this is what my budget is. And what I'm actually tracking, does it fit with my budget? Am I below budget? Am I over budget? Did I budget too little? Did I budget too much? Thinking about that afterwards. So creating an expected budget for the rest of the semester or year. So maybe you're thinking about it as, okay, I want to create a budget through the end of 2022, or at least through the summer or something like that. So create a manageable amount for you and think ahead, like what are some things that you may need to pay for. So just thinking about that as y'all are transitioning. Maybe you're moving into a different place, so you're thinking about a security deposit, right? Or first month's rent. Or you're looking at different cities to live in, and maybe you're moving into a house, or maybe you never had a car before and you need a car in the place that you're going to live. So what are things that you may need to put in your budget in the future as you're getting to closer to graduation, and you're thinking about, okay, what are some things that maybe I didn't need as a student or might look different from me? Or if you're already budgeting as a student, what do I need to take out? So maybe you're taking out textbooks, you're taking out how much you're paying for your sorority dues or fraternity dues, or you're taking out parking pass or subscriptions that you had or something like that. So thinking about it in a way that's really manageable for you. And so now we're going to kind of move forward a little bit, put it to practice. And what I mean by that is set some goals for ourselves. So I mentioned earlier about this being kind of like the motivation piece. And I think about it as like your why. So why are we budgeting? Why are we trying to do well with our money? Well, our why is wanting to accomplish these goals for yourself, right? So I don't know if anyone's heard of SMART goals before, but I like to use SMART goals because it makes it more likely that you'll complete a goal if it's SMART. So what I mean by that is looking at the acronym. So if you're specific, if you're measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, then you're more likely to accomplish your goal. So a good example of a SMART goal versus a non-SMART goal. So a not SMART goal would be, let's say, I'm trying to think. I want to start running, or I'm going to start running. Let's say that's your goal. Okay, well, how do I know if I have achieved that running goal, right? Or going back, I'm using this example again, going back to figure skating. Okay. I want to figure skate. Okay. How do you know when you've achieved whatever that goal is? Is that really even a goal? I guess you could say too. So if you're thinking about it in terms of a SMART goal, okay, I want to start figure skating every day, maybe, or once a week, or what is your timeline? So thinking about a timeline with your goal is important. Is it realistic for you to start doing that every day, right? So is it attainable? How are you measuring if you've completed it? Is it realistic? Is it timely? So all of these things here. So let's say you were thinking about it, and let's maybe gear more towards a financial goal. So let's say I want to save money. Okay, great. You want to save money. That's your goal. How are you making it SMART? So if I said I want to save $100 a month for the rest of 2020 by putting $50 out of each paycheck into my savings account. Okay, is that reasonable? Are you getting a paycheck where you can put $100 away, or you could put $50 away out of your paycheck? It is measurable and it is timely, right? Because you said you want to do it per paycheck or once a month, whatever we decided, by the end of the year. And then you could say, by the end of the year, I would like to have $500 saved up or something like that. So I think it's important to kind of write it out. And then once you've written out what the goal is, continue to get more specific and continue to think about, okay, how would I accomplish that? And so as y'all are getting closer to graduation, I think there's so many different financial goals that you could have for yourselves. So what I want you to do is take a second, maybe get out a piece of paper, or if you're on your, obviously you're on your computer, maybe type in some notes there. But I want you to take like a few minutes, maybe give you like 2 or 3 minutes, and sit there and think about like, what do you want to do with your money realistically, or where do you want to move, or be thinking about that too. And then share in the chat when you're ready. I think I'll share mine in the chat too, just to give some more examples as well. And moderators, if you guys want to share too, happy to kind of have anyone who wants to share in the chat. But yeah, I'll share mine, and then maybe everyone will feel more comfortable sharing theirs after. So take some time, take like 2 minutes. I think we'll go to like 12:43. So really kind of like think about where you're at in life and what you want to do with it. Okay, I'll give everyone another minute, but I just want everyone to know that I shared 2 of mine. So if you're looking for examples, or you're kind of struggling to think about what you might want a goal to be for yourself, have some shared. And I will say, I always get this question of like, does getting to graduation and graduating with a degree count? Of course it counts, because that can help you financially, right? So even if it's a little goal, please feel free to share. Okay, we've got 2 great ones here. Keep sharing, guys, but I want to share these because these are great. Chardonnay says, I want to build, or not build a house, I want to buy a house when the market calms down. And then long term, want to buy a beach house. Cool. So your budget over the next few years has been savings heavy to help with this. Yeah. So you're putting money specifically towards your goals. This is great. I think you can set too, like if you say, I want to buy a house in 3 years, it can be flexible and you can always change your goal too, but maybe thinking about even quantifying it a little bit more. That's a good start, job. And then, okay, second one here. I want to take a trip to Europe, and we'll do so by saving money each month for the next year. Also great. I think seeing, maybe quantifying the saving money piece, so thinking about how much you could possibly save. And I understand being in a transition phase, and maybe you're not having a full-time job yet, or not starting a full-time job, you may not know how much money you could save, but I think quantifying and getting as specific as you can is going to make you realize whether it's feasible or not, or if you need to just change your timeline around too. Great. Anyone else want to share? I'll share for maybe one more person. What do we want to do? What motivates us? What are we trying to accomplish here? Okay. Last one here. Anna says, I want to be able to pay for my rent and expenses when I move to Hawaii in July. Anna, that's amazing. I'm jealous that you're moving to Hawaii. Never been there, always wanted to go. Seems really cool. I'm sure the weather will be great. Heard great things about the people. Yeah, I think it's great that you're working on it. So and also it's only March, so you have time. But cool, that's awesome. All right, so I know y'all are getting close to graduation, so I don't think I need to share so much on the next slide, but just some resources that I always chat with students about that we offer in our office and just around campus too. So with that, I just wanted to share a couple of resources. That's all I have for the presentation. So I do want to share a couple websites. So I'm going to unshare the presentation and then we'll just move this over and then we'll be good to go. So I know I mentioned Nerdwallet earlier. So it's an app, but it's also a website. And I think if you take anything away from this presentation, I hope that y'all use this resource. So it's great. Any topic that you have in terms of money is a good thing. It's a great, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. It's a great way to get information about most topics related to your finances. Anything you have questions about, they have articles about. I got cheaper car insurance going through their calculators and through things on here. I cannot recommend them higher. If students are looking at, if you're thinking about getting a credit card, you're thinking about opening a bank account, anything, they're really great about giving good information. And I just want to shout them out for a second. I'm going to turn my camera off because I need to blow my nose for a second. I apologize.
Hey, Rachel, I think you're muted.
I was muted. I apologize. Thank you so much. I muted myself by accident. Okay, so what I wanted to share was, and this, you can see this on bank accounts and other things on Nerdwallet too, but this is what Nerdwallet does that a credit card website or a bank website or any other website really related to finances is not going to show you. They have pros and cons. So if I went on, let's say I went on American Express's website, they're not going to give me the pros and cons of this credit card. They're going to say, this is why it's great and this is why you should get it. So I like Nerdwallet because it's giving you, I would say, a more fair take, a balanced take on different things. And I encourage you, when you're looking for financial information or Googling things, that you look and you find websites that give you honest takes about things, and they're not just trying to sell you on a credit card, or they're not just trying to advertise you something. And so I think that's really important. So if you take anything away when you're looking at for more financial information in the future, look for balanced websites and balanced takes, and Nerdwallet does a really good job of doing that. They also have some really great calculators. So what I wanted to talk about is cost of living. So some of you are transitioning, I mean, obviously transitioning and graduating, but maybe moving in different places. So I know there's Columbia in here because I've used this before. Let me find it. I just wanted to show this as an example. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let's say we want to live, let's see. Let's pick California. Let's do one of the most expensive cities in the country. So San Francisco. Okay, so let's say if I had this paycheck, it lets you know how much you would need to make in a different city to have the same standard of living, essentially. And so why I like this one from Nerdwallet is it tells you how much a 2-bedroom apartment rent is. I will say these are estimates, so I don't know if this is the most updated, but I think it's good in terms of comparisons. So you can see if the city is more expensive. You can look at transportation costs. I mean, It's not updated right now because of gas prices and things, but somewhat updated at least. Entertainment costs, food costs, healthcare costs, important, right? So thinking about this too. So I like looking at different calculators and things as well to kind of give me some help along the way. And also, if you're looking and you're applying for jobs, seeing if you can afford to take that salary, right? Living in whatever city that you want to live in or are planning to live in the future, or planning on working remotely and you want to move to a different city. Can that work for you? And Bankrate is another good one. And I will put this in the chat too, just to see it. Great one as well. They also have cost of living calculator. So they have something similar to home affordability. So I think it was Chardonnay that said she wanted to buy a house. So it's really good to kind of see what you could potentially afford. Again, these are all estimates, so it's important to kind of realize that. But let's say again, if we're moving from Columbia, I'm curious if this one's a little bit different. Let's see Asheville. It's a little close. Let's see. Okay, so we know from here that the cost of living is higher in Asheville than it is in South Carolina, which I'm not surprised there. Yeah, and it gives you different things. So electrical, like a lot of different costs in different areas. So I encourage you all to look at this too, and just to kind of see and get some idea about what different cities cost, how much things can afford as well. And if you also have questions about other things, like investing's been a big hot topic that I've heard from students this year. There's some really good articles about that and recommendations from Bankrate and also from Nerdwallet too. They have a good area for investing too. So best things for beginners, best interested in crypto, if you want to look at that. Actually, I'm curious what their investment apps are, their recommendations are. They have some recommendations, but again, this is going to give you details. This is why I like this. Again, why I love Nerdwallet so much. Why they like it, why they don't like it. So just again, that more honesty, more transparency. Excuse me, I have hiccups. But I think that's all I got, guys. So it leaves about like 5 minutes or so for questions. So I just wanted to see if anyone had any questions that I can answer, and I will also share my email in the chat. So just drop your questions in the chat if you have any, but otherwise, thanks for having me, guys. Thank you to Maggie and for organizing this. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much, Rachel, and thanks for everyone who attended. For our participants, we will be posting this recording later. So if you missed any part of the session today, you can kind of find advice back if you want to check in on any of those tools on the U of SC Alumni YouTube this afternoon. But otherwise, thank you so much again, Rachel, and everyone have a great day.
Bye, thank you.